What dark video game moment are you still trying to get over? Portal 2 listening to Cave Johnson just very gradually dying, and Gladys hearing her own origin story for the first time. That was oddly emotional for me, too, man. Original ending of Mass Effect 3. Going into it, I didn't know they had updated the ending as a free DLC. Took my romance and best friend into it, and still haven't got my happy ending to this day. It was just so hard to watch, I don't want to see it again, if I mess up. When I get online after a long day, and see that none of my friends are online and I have 10 GB worth of updates. Now it's worse when they are online, and playing the games you gotta update. You're listening to them all giggle, and holler over Discord, and one of them's like, okay, I really gotta go after this last one, and someone else is, yeah, I should go too. One last one, and you're sitting there with another 20 minutes to download, looking at you Cody. In Dragon Age 2nd, when you're investigating about what happened to the missing women, only to find out the man you seek killed your mom, attached different body parts on her, then reanimated her because she looks like his dead wife. The stitches on her neck still gets me. I always hold well in seeing gruesome things, but this shit made me gape and stare. The chase down is what gets me. Hawk freaking out at the blood trail, getting more frantic. What's worse is she can be the last family Hawk has left, too. DA2 is the saddest game ever. You can end up with having all your family killed, your romantic interest committing an act of terrorism that sparks a civil war, and having to leave behind the life you have built throughout the game, and go into hiding. Too bad the community hates it. Protocol 3 Protect the Pilot BT 70-74. Just replayed that game recently. Can't say I didn't feel that deep in my soul. It's gotten me that last 4 times I played. Leaving behind my cuttlefish in Subnautica. I put a cuttlefish egg in my time capsule. No, I miss my cuttlefish. Fable 3rd. I kept all of my promises to the people who joined my coup. I tried so hard to be a good king. I fought alongside my people to save the kingdom, but 0 people in my kingdom survived. I was the sole survivor. I haven't turned that game on since. What I did was buy a bunch of rental properties and leave the game on overnight. In the morning I moved my money to the treasury, let me choose all the good options, and make enough money to keep everyone alive. Same, but I just took the game out and set the system clock to like 50 years in the future, and then put the game back in. Going through Naruto for the first time and learning you were 100 years too late to save Mipha. Any of the divine beasts, really, but Mipha definitely deserved her happy ending the most. Revali, on the other hand. The music when you enter divine beasts actually contain an SOS in Morse code. Did you really just do that to me? Nia, Automata and its endings after A and B. Or just 9's descent into madness after finding out the truth about humanity in 2B. Or just Nia, Automata. Ending E made me legit cry. I went out of my way to get the platinum in that, and I 100% gave up my data. Hope someone else made it to the end because of me. I still had a whole bunch of stuff to do in the game, but figured I'd check out the ending first. Still didn't hesitate to pick the helping option. Not so much dark as it was sad for me, but at the end of my first playthrough of Halo Reach, when I realized there was nothing I could do to stay alive at the end. Kotter's full dark side ending, where you have one of your companions, Zolba, who swore a life debt to you, kill his best friend, who he has traveled, stayed, and fought by that person's side for the whole game. This character is also a teenage girl. Vault 11 from Fallout NV. For obvious reasons. Exclamation mark. Phosphorus. Spec Ops, The Line. Everything. Spec Ops, The Line. The moment that has stuck with me the most is the bit where you're meant to fire into the crowd to disperse them. I remember learning that you could fire above their heads and doing that instead, but afterwards feeling so frustrated, like I wanted to go back and commit a war crime instead. Exclamation mark. Like damn, it was probably the right thing. but they did not make it satisfying to try to be a good person. The Witcher 3. Do I throw the Geralt's baby in the oven, or hand it over to him and let his curse continue? I yeeted it straight into the toaster. Same. I was thinking no way they'd actually BBQ this baby in this game. The beginning of The Last of Us game came out just a couple months after my daughter was born. Ducked me up. The beginning was tough, but the ending got me ducked up. I had to lay down in bed and rethink my life for a couple hours. I tear up everything I hear the song at the end credits, right after she says okay. Mording goddamned Salus. Big Cree every team. He was the very model of a scientist Solarian. Had to be me. Someone else might have gotten it wrong. DFCON in general. Watching the Nooks hit each other's capitals and millions of people die within a Serialator's computer graphics just felt wrong. I never had the feeling to win this game. Only to be the one who lost at least. I feel terrible every time I start up DEFCON. The eerie silence which, after you start throwing nukes around, is broken by crying. Here you are in one of the only safe places on the entire planet, just watching everything get nuked to hell as a co-worker breaks down after just watched possibly where her family live get nuked. The Life is Strange assisted suicide scene. Yeah, I had to stand up and walk away for a bit before I could make that decision. The Geroid face in Animal Crossing. Basically, if you go to a friend's town via memory card but turn her power off, when you come back to her town, her eyes will be hollow black. Not only that, but her items in her inventory will be gone. Nothing like punishing kids for resetting by giving them nightmares. Super Paper Mario. When Mimi transformed into a spider and Mario had to run away from her, it scared the piss out of me when I was a kid. Even today it unnerves me. The whole quest in Hearts of Stone, Witcher 3 DLC, with Olgierd's wife, that depicts their relationship from the hopeful beginning to its tragic end, was probably one of the most beautiful, yet tragic moments in gaming for me. Deleted. Truly, Blood and Wine was incredible, but OS captured me in the story so much more. Getting invaded first time in Dark Souls. Detroit, becoming human, all of the ways you can kill your characters, including the little girl. That game is so dark in some pathways, and in just the base game, especially what happened to Hank. My god. Doki Doki Literature Club, specifically when Sayori hangs herself. I know a lot of people knew that's what they were getting into with that game, but I didn't. It took me by surprise so much, so that I turned my computer off and went to lie down for an hour. Remember when you're forced to watch, you're a slow, painful death and there's no skip button, and it takes forever? You're forced to just be there for all 3 days with no skip to the next school week. Holy duck. The Witcher 3 expansion Heart of Stone. Gorgeous, dark, and sad. Gaunter Rodham is a super well written character. Imagine making the most cliche argument ever into that masterpiece. When you have to crawl through glass shards and drug needles in heavy rain. I think the drug needles were removed in later patches. I played through the game just a month ago, and don't remember seeing any needles in the tunnel crawl sequence. Interesting that they changed that. They might not have, the scenes might change depending on what you have or haven't done. Like, you could have killed off a character, and thus not gotten the scene. The end of Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1. Keep that hair short, Clem. The final season kinda ruined S1 for me. If Clem could be saved from dying and turning zombie by chopping off her leg, then why chopping Lee's arm didn't work? The reason I think it's different is, when Lee got bit, if you didn't choose to cut it off, he's dead no matter what. But if you do cut the arm off, you still wait a really long time to do it. Enough time for the infection to spread. While for Clementine, when she's bitten her leg is taken off very quickly. Exclamation mark. The ending of Red Dead Redemption 1. High school me didn't see it coming. None of us did. I thought John had a shot at making it when Dead Eye mode was activated. only for the cutscene to hit after he started firing. The Witcher 3, The Whispering Hill quest. It is a classic ethical dilemma. Would you sacrifice a few innocent souls to save many? In this case a few orphans for the whole village of Downwurm. I was torn on what to choose, so I stopped playing for a couple of days. A Witcher 3 playthrough is like a year long for me because I can never decide and end up drawing out these decisions as long as I physically can. Wouldn't have it any other way. Such an amazing game. I remember in the Blood and Wine DLC there was a side quest involving a cursed tree. I was feeling a bit burnt out from side quest grinding at that point, so I picked the quickest option just to get it done. Was punished for it and immediately regretted my impatience lol. The final battle with Doc Ock in Spider-Man PS4. I loved that game so much, and that shit broke me. The cutscene at the end was executed a lot better than some of the Spider-Man movies endings. So goddamn emotional. I love that game to death. I wish there were more games I could say this about, but this one is unmatched. That entire game is a love letter to Spider-Man. It shows exactly what makes Spidey. It isn't his superpowers that make him the hero, and the game shows it. They show that even though he wins, he still loses. Spider-Man is a tragic hero who, despite all his hardships and experience, is just a guy from Queens doing his best to help. The game nailed that. Yes, I have always loved the duality of the character, the very heroic Spider-Man, and the painfully human Peter Parker. It's masterful storytelling. Just brilliant. The game also stays true to the comics, which is important for me, but they also fit the everyday life aspect into it too. Recently played Life is Strange for the first time. There were a couple of moments in the game where I had to take a walk because I was not prepared for the choice they dropped on me, but none more so than the last choice. That had me ducked up for days. The one about halfway through literally had my heart racing trying to get it right. That's the real oh shit moment of the game. I think I got one wrong my first playthrough but ultimately succeeded. My brother constantly murdering every marine in Halo, said. So much blood. I did that too. Also tried to see how long I could survive for after shooting people when you go to the captain right at the start. Damn immortal marines. Not really dark, but finding out why Count Bleck was destroying worlds simply because he couldn't find his wife was just heartbreaking. Edit. Thank you for all the updates, that's very unexpected. Groval leaving you in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. He was seriously the best. And then he sacrifices himself to help you save the future. It was even sadder than the moment where you vanish yourself and your partner cries. Oh, the soundtrack. When I was a kid I couldn't beat the final boss and had to leave the endgame area so I could grind. If you go back to Lapras at the entrance to the first endgame dungeon, she asks where Groval went and understands what your responsive silence means. I have never seen anyone else mention this, and I needed to share it. What remains of Edith Finch? Basically the entire game. I'm so happy someone mentioned this one. The kid on the swing ducked me up. I was bawling like a baby. The bathtub scene too. It's such a good game. Life is Strange. There's a moment where the two main characters find the answer to something they were searching for, and it's a horrible but beautiful with the music and emotion moment. Fun fact. Close voice actress Ashley Birch was actually crying while recording that because she was thinking of her RL boyfriend who had passed fairly recently at the time. She's one of the few voice actors I know by name and she's one of my absolute favorite. She was actually crying? Damn. And here I was thinking she was just a damn good actress. She is. But I didn't knew she forced a memory to genuinely cry. I killed Paarthurnax on my first Skyrim playthrough. Still not really over the disappointment in myself. There's a Khajiit story Arwana in Morrowind. Bamora. I killed him really early in the game. Just to see if I could. Much later, when it was too late to start the game over, I would go back into his store and no one was there. I still feel bad about it. Ravi. His shop is beside the Mages Guild. That was who I would sell my moon sugar and skooma to. Dom. Gears of War 3. Those who know. I can't decide if that moment is worse or the moment when he finds his wife with a Boltok 2. Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward NPC death. Torture Faunt Greyston. And Square Enix recently brought that NPC as a flashback memory back twice. I'll never forgive Yoshi P for this. I'll always love him. Thought they were going to do me bad again in 5. 3. Was preparing to quit forever. Most of what happened to the NPCs you encounter as proceeding with the storyline in Bloodborne, Gilbert, Ariana, Gascoigne's daughter to name a few, really gives the player the feeling of dread as story goes on. In Tales of Symphonia, when Prezi snapped out of her trance and realized she was basically taking care of her sister's corpse for over a decade. Also that X-spheres were made from innocents at the human ranches. Messed me up as a kid. I'll say that. Great game. Just all that still has stuck with me. Pretty sure it was her dad. Her sister got turned into a monster and killed by Regal II. So it's actually even worse than that. Kate's death in Life is Strange. The gut punches that you're pretty much in control of it, and paying attention to what she says in episode 1 and 2 is how you can save her. Yeah, Kate totally jumped right off that ducking building because I didn't listen to her or pay attention. I keep telling myself that one of these days I'll go back and redo my playthrough, but all of Life is Strange is pretty depressing, and I like my video game time to be fun. Every ghost is born knowing that we have to find our guardian. We don't know what they look like. Not on the outside. Anyway, on the inside, I'd always known who you were, and that together, we could be something more. When you think about everything we've seen, everything we've done, I feel like I made the right choice. HM. We should let Shiro know how it went out here. Let him admire his handiwork. And thanks, you know, for being my guardian. Apostrophe. That dialogue would be better received if that ducking mission wasn't so damn hard lol. I can't remember, but I did cry when Thatch was killed in ACBF. Homeworld. No one is left. Everything's gone. Carrick is burning. Apostrophe. Lego Island when the Brickster duped my 7-year-old ass and escaped prison. I was just doing my job. That bastard, right? Fall Guys. My friend held onto me in Full Mountain as I jumped for crown. The ending of Halo Reach is one that'll always stick in my mind. It's very powerful. No Russian. I think what gets me about this level is that you absolutely don't have to kill anyone except the police that come to stop you. Possibly not even them, but players absolutely will. Call it a litmus test for what kind of person you are when there's no consequences. I always wonder what went through PFC Allen's mind at that moment. I mean, he's just a private. He killed enemies, but not just some people in the wrong country. Would you kindly edit, more specifically a man chooses, a slave obeys. I think the end scene in Far Cry 5, putting in all of that effort to see what happens to your friends is difficult. I still believe the canon ending is the secret one, where you don't arrest the father and just leave. Basically all of Spec Ops, the line. However, more specifically the part where you use a white phosphorus mortar to kill a bunch of soldiers you assume to be hostile that are rounding up civilians. Just to find out that they were all friendlies and trying to help the civilians escape the bay, and you just single-handedly murdered dozens upon dozens of soldiers and civilians in one of the most painful ways possible. Not to mention how you shouldn't even be there to begin with. The Oren Eagle orders were to make contact with the locals then fall back to let the army invade. Those killings were meaningless. Fallout 76. When you find a holotape recorded by a 13-year-old boy just after the bombs fell. He talks about how his dad blamed bad things happening on the kid's misbehavior. Confesses to a bunch of pranks and stupid kid stuff he did to mess with people. And then cries and begs for his dad to come back. Saying he'll be good this time if his dad just comes back. First time I heard that, I freaking lost it. For all its faults, Fallout 76 does have golden moments, doesn't it? A man chooses a slave obeys. The fourth segment of Night in the Woods. As controversial as that part is, I still think about that part of the game a lot. After I first played through that part of the game, I just laid down in the dark for a while to try and unwind from that. I'm curious, what section of Night in the Woods was that? I was trying to remember and all I could come up with was the fourth dream sequence, which was more of a pain in the ass than anything. Pretty sure the fourth segment is when Mie learns about the cult and what they did to her friend Cassie. The Deathblood Noble team from Halo Reach. When I first played it I was crying. BTW, I was really young at the time. Life is strange. When finding out about Rachel. This. The way Chloe cries just breaks me. The end of Undertale, true pacifist ending. Jesus Christ, man. The most I've ever cried at a video game. Dear God. The hurtful boyfriend route in Hatoful Boyfriend. I was just playing around and accidentally stumbled on the route by accident. Definitely wasn't prepared. I came here for fun, not tears. I can't believe I'm saying this in a public forum. It's okay. I had a moment in Mass Effect 3 where I thought I'd just try some random dialogue options and the consequences messed me up. Not really a video game moment, but when Rick May, the voice of the TF2 soldier, died, I was ducked up for days. I cried when Lean On Me came on at the end of my roughly 90 hours of playtime in Final Fantasy 15. Like a lot of people didn't really like the game. But just the final scene, and then the flashbacks to the beginning of the game, and then the song, and I was sitting there in my underpants at 2 AM crying until the credits ended, and I went to sleep. A certain application of white phosphorus in a certain third-person cover shooter. If you know, you know. Assuming we are talking about the same 2012 shooter. That whole game is ducked up, but yeah. Agree. I have 2. GTA V. When you have to torture the guy for information on who to snipe Assassin's Creed Unity. When you get to watch a homeless dude's leg being sawed off. Oh, the torturing part. UHG, I kinda hated that part and 2 of the GTA V endings. Completely hated Haynes and partially Trevor for that torture scene. When K started playing on my island and the credits showed up. I'll go with the underdog. When Elle gets sick in Dragon Quest Builders and asks you to kill her! Exclamation mark. Danganronpa 2 Trial 5. 2 of my favorite characters dead in the same chapter was too much for me. Killing Mordin in Mass Effect 3. I just experienced this recently. First time. Can't get over the had to be me line. The death of Sarah, Joel's daughter, in the intro of TLOU. I swear to God, ninjas were cutting onions in my living room the first and second time I played this part. When Kokichiyama broke down before Gonta's execution in chapter 4 of Danganronpa V3. Whilst not overly dark in itself, when I was playing Ocarina of Time through for the first time, I got to Kakariko Village's adult Link in the cutscene, where Sheik is thrown out of the well, and you see from the monster's perspective played. My mum came into the room at that time, and told me that an aunt was on her deathbed, which was the first time I heard that someone I knew was going to die. Getting to that moment in the game now always gives me a childlike sense of dread. The ending of Crisis Core. You know Zack isn't going to survive, but you have this little bit of hope that maybe you can save him if you keep fighting. That broke me. Persona 5 Royal. First 2 weeks of January, maybe not so much dark, but heavy on the melancholy. Oh man, I ducking loved how they adapted P5R from vanilla. I cried at the ending of both games. They're just so good. Not very dark, but Emma and Mima's story in Pokemon X was rather depressing for early teen me. Tales of the Abyss. Specifically the first arc where Luke spends all his time not knowing the truth, and then destroys an entire city in his ignorance. It took me about 30 minutes or so after that whole cutscene ended to really process just what the duck had happened. and then everyone turning on Luke immediately afterward just broke me. Drawn to life for the Nintendo DS. It was all a dream that was happening in one of the side characters' heads because he was in a coma after a car accident that killed both of his parents. Soma. I still feel sorry for the versions of Simon who are left behind. When PFC Alan was shot in the face. We share the same name. It was like I got shot in the face. Moment when you find out Reznov died in the beginning and you've been imagining him the whole time. I'm surprised no one's mentioned the end of Bioshock Infinite, when a ton of different Elizabeths surround the PC arguing over whether he's Booker DeWitt or Zachary Comstock, before he's pushed underneath the water by every single Elizabeth. He whispers I'm both. That was a straight up Minduck that left me scared. For some reason I think back to the death of Jenny in the darkness. Bungie deciding to kill Kate 6. Like hey, you know how Kate seems to be everybody's favorite character in Destiny? Yeah, let's kill him off. Now we are left with a blue emo titan and a warlock who doesn't do anything. Destiny 2, Forsaken. Still shed a tear when Uldren finishes off Kate 6. Love the line he gives tough. How is your sister? And I know CUNY 1. When you start to unlock some of the backstory and finding out what happens to the little boy's mom. It's a pretty happy-go-lucky game until that moment, and then the tone completely changes. I was visiting a friend who was playing Alien vs Predator, and I was peering intently over his shoulder when some horrible things happened, and there was screaming, and things getting knocked over, cats freaking out and general pandemonium. I'm still not entirely comfortable with aliens, predators, or other people's cats. In The Last of Us, when his daughter was killed straight away, wasn't expecting that at all. Mere Automata when you start to slowly realize that the machines you've killed thousands of times have thoughts and feelings. Big spoiler when you have to choose whether or not to erase Pascal's memory about their village that was murdered. I had to take a break. Skyrim, the Dark Brotherhood side quest. Cicero did some shit. Shadow the Hedgehog saying this is like taking candy from a baby, which is fine by me. Deku Butler's son in Majora's Mask. When my cat died, and I found the same looking cat in Minecraft. Death Stranding. When Sam tries to resuscitate Lau as all the dead baby BTs float around and watch, practically waiting to receive the kid. They seem almost betrayed by the fact Lau is revived, like she gets to grow up and they don't. That scene gave me chills. And I don't even like babies. Also, the resolution to all those Clifford flashbacks! Exclamation mark. Torturing the main character's young brother in Far Cry 3. Majora's Mask, the whole game. But the ending was just so quiet and peaceful. Felt like a wrong had been righted. But for all of this NPCs to go through all that pain and suffering, knowing if you didn't travel in time it would be their last 3 days. Completely oblivious. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.